Hi everybody, Giselle Grenier here from artplace.ca. In today's video lesson, we're going to explore what do we do if we run out of yellow oxide. And we all know that yellow oxide is a really beautiful, earthy, yellow-orange, very neutral. My instinct would be just to go to raw sienna and add a bit of white to it. But, you know, let's work with our limited palette. Not everybody has raw sienna. I only use raw sienna really for pet portrait paintings. It's a color that I could probably do without because I use yellow ochre more. So let's see what we can do. So with this particular experiment, I'm going to try Napthol red light, Hansa yellow light, and Phthalo blue. But I already have prepared ultramarine blue, Hansa yellow medium, and just Napthol red. Now ultramarine blue is in my limited palette. These two are not. I'm going to see what happens if I get stuck with these colors. So I'm thinking I'm going to start with yellow. I'm going to start with yellow. Now, this yellow leans towards the green, so I'm not quite sure how this is going to work. So we have a little bit of yellow. Let's add a speck of red. So that's not too bad. We obviously have to neutralize it. And to neutralize an orange, you add a blue. Whoops. Too much. Oh my God. See how you have to be so careful with phthalo blue? I think that might be, that's not too bad. Glare. Wow. That's actually pretty close. Well, we already know that you have to add white to see the true underlying color. And no, it's very green. It's very, very green. See? So, no. Very green, which means there's too much yellow and too much blue. So, if it's a bit more on the green side, let's add a speck of red, which is obviously too much. Let's just make up a bit more paint. That's too orange. So let's add a bit more, a bit more phthalo blue. Let's add some white. I'm finding this to be very much a challenge. Very much a challenge. I keep running out of paint. So going back with the red and the yellow. And I'm thinking it's the yellow is the wrong yellow because it's yellow that leans towards green. Phthalo blue is a blue that leans towards green, so of course everything is going to be a bit greenish. That's actually not too bad. Let's hit that with a white. It's still a little bit, it's actually not too bad. It's actually not too bad at all. There we go. I would say, yeah, I have the mixture. I would say I have the mixture. How did I do that? I have no idea. So we're going to do it again. When you're creating your mixes, again, I keep saying this in every video, do not use measurements like tablespoons and teaspoons. Brands are all different, so you're going to have to experiment. So the theory behind this is taking a yellow, add some red, you're going to be making an orange, and then neutralize it with a blue. I'm going to use a different brush. So going with that much yellow, and let's go with about that much red. So I would say 3 parts yellow, 1 part red. We'll try that. 3 parts yellow, 1 part red. 3 parts yellow, 1 part red. Let me just make a note. So yellow, red, blue. 3 yellow, 1 red. That's what we started off with. a microscopic touch of phthalo blue. Okay, so I'm going to put T for touch. 1 touch of phthalo blue. Still way too orange. Bit more blue. So it's too dark. I add another touch of phthalo blue. Too dark, so I'm going to add roughly another part of yellow. Plus 1 yellow. Can't judge the color here. You got to do it on a scrap paper. You know what that's close of? Raw sienna. So that's actually not bad. It's a bit dark. Well, if we want to lighten this, the only way we can go really is to add a bit more yellow. So we added another part of yellow. Let's see the true underlying color though. It's not bad. Not bad. I'm going to hit that with a little bit. Now I've got white in that, so I'm going to get a fresh brush. Bit more yellow in that. I know that I can probably get this really fast with using Hansa Yellow Medium. Okay, let's get a little bit of white in there. There we go. There we are. So, I ran out of paint. There we go. Yep, that's, you know what? I could probably even add a speck, tiny little speck of red to that, which is even better. Okay. There we go. So, plus speck. So the way that I came up with the mixture, let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 parts Hansa Yellow Light. 1 part plus a speck of Napthol Red Light. And 2 touches of phthalo blue. Again, you're going to mix this the way you're going to take 6 parts, 1 part, a speck, and 2 touches, and you're not going to get the same. You've got to visually do it on your palette yourself. And even looking at this now as it's drying, I could probably add a bit more red and yellow to that. Yeah, a little bit more red and yellow. That's closer to this value right here, but typically yellow oxide doesn't have any white in it. So, yeah. On the surface, this and this, yeah, they're pretty good, but looking at it, when you add white to see the true underlying color, I could probably add a bit more red and yellow. So there we go. So does that mean that I will replace yellow oxide in my palette? Nope. Nope. Because yellow oxide is an inexpensive pigment, and it is much easier using it out of the tube. On top of that, you would have to, experiment with your own paints, and, but at least now you know what happens if you run out. If you run out of yellow oxide or yellow ochre, you know what to do. But it's a very inexpensive pigment. I would keep that in the palette. And I'm looking at this now, and just to give you an idea. So does this mean that you can use raw sienna as a substitute for yellow oxide? Yeah, you can. I like the yellow oxide more for portraits, where raw sienna is really good for landscapes, but you can make some adjustments with them. By adding white to it, it's a completely different story. It takes more on almost like a pinky pigment. So it's not the same. Don't get me wrong, it's not the same. And but it is an alternative. So what I'm going to do in another video is I will show you basically how to make up your own raw sienna, which is, that might be even recommendation, because the raw sienna that I have, I've had this for such a long time, and like I would say, I end up more throwing it out because it ends up drying up because I don't use it that often. So learning how to make up raw sienna is a good alternative, especially for landscapes. So there we go. So I'd like to see your take on making up yellow oxide using the paints that you have. So you're going to take a red, you're going to take a yellow, and you're going to take a blue, and make up some different mixtures. And please post your color charts in the private Facebook group. I really would like to see what you come up with. On top of that, make notes, because there are other people that might be in a situation where they don't have the colors I have. They don't have the colors, you know, they're not sure what they have and it's not working. Maybe they can get some feedback and see other charts and really get inspired and pick up some ideas. All right, so please post your color charts in the private Facebook group. All right, so as well, if you have any comments on this lesson, please comment below the video. I read and answer every single post. And I'm going to clean up now, and I'm going to prepare for the next video. And I'm thinking it's time for a cup of tea. I am so cold. Ready? So until I see you in the next video, stay inspired.